Hi everyone, I'm David Farmer and welcome back to my channel, Effortless Being. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day and we were talking about the way that we can influence the world. And my friend was asking, how is it that we influence the world? And particularly those who are on a spiritual journey, how is it that the world is influenced? And really what it all comes down to is the question of vibration and energy. Because all of this really, if you were to look at it under a microscope, which many scientists have, and will be able to testify to the fact that everything is just simply vibrating energy, energetic resonance. So what we call the physical body, what we call the world, is really just resonating energy fluctuations. And so that's why, we say that, somebody or some situation has a good vibe or a bad vibe, or that we say that we resonate with somebody. I use that a lot. If somebody says, "Oh, David, I liked what you said on your channel," I often reply, "Well, I'm glad that resonated with you," because that's really all we're talking about, is this kind of resonating energy. And so then how is it that the world is influenced by our particular energy? A really simple, pretty kind of crude, but really simple example is if you were to go out onto the street and scowl at people, like, more often than not, you'll get a scowl back. Whereas on the other hand, if you were to go out onto the street and you were to smile at 10 people, unless you're living in London, they'll probably smile back. That's a little Londoner joke there. I used to live in London, so I'm allowed to say that. No, but you get my point, that if you go out and you're smiling and you're friendly and you're nice to people, more often than not, that will be resonated back to you. So you might think, okay, brilliant. That means I just need to be a good person then, and not be a bad person. And that's what's taught to us, isn't it, by our parents and society generally. Be good and try not to be bad. But the thing is, even good people are afraid. And this is where we get more into the sort of quote-unquote spiritual side of things. Even good people are afraid. Why is that? Because they still believe themselves to be a person, a separate self. And they may think that they are slightly better than a bad person, but the belief in being the person is still the same in both. And so long as you believe yourself to be a separate person, there will be fear in you. And that fear is projected into the world. And you can see the world today, what it looks like. And it all stems from this point. So beware of even good people. So where do we go from there? Why is that, What do we do with all of this? If I can't even be a good person, then what's the point, But you have to see clearly what's going on. And that means you have to bring attention to your life and awareness to your life. And when you do that, You're raising the vibration even more and giving yourself more perspective to see what's actually going on. And what you'll find is that in this belief in being separate, you are deriving your happiness from objects. And that object could be an actual object like a car or a house, it could be a person. And that also applies to the person you believe yourself to be. You try to make sure that this person is happy. But all of that is tinged with the fear of loss. Because so long as you strive for happiness in objects, you'll always be afraid. Why? Because the objects are always changing. The objects come and go. The nice house doesn't stay nice forever. The car will eventually break down. And so too for the body. So long as you believe yourself to be this body, you will be afraid. And that is what is projected out, even for the so-called good people, as I say. Now, whereas I'd much rather be around a good person than a bad person. I think we could all say that, but it's a scale, and the commonality, the common factor is this fear. And that is being projected out and reflected back in experience. So as I said, all the problems that we see in the world today stem from this one fact. And this goes out for you spiritual people as well, because I've been there. Those of you on the spiritual journey, pay attention to the practices. Pay attention to actually what you're doing. You could be somebody that's attracted to chanting and mantras and all that kind of stuff, but that kind of stuff is really kind of low vibrational. And it reminds me of a funny quote by the great Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti. And he says, it doesn't matter if you're chanting Om or if you're chanting, Coca-Cola. It brings your vibration down. It's a very low vibrational thing. And what happens is you end up getting zoned out, and consciousness falls below the level of thought, and you just end up zoned out. And then on the other hand, you might be a great meditator and somebody who likes to meditate all the time and feel this wonderful transcending blissfulness. And you might sort of then go about into the world in this kind of blissed out state. But this is phony as well. What happens there is you end up, rather than getting zoned out, you end up getting zenned out. And you derive your identity from being this, blissful spiritual person. But both contain fear. Why? Because there is this desire to attain something. This desire born of fear to achieve something. Which is just distraction. It's a form of distraction. It's a kind of spiritual distraction, if you like. But what if you were to pay attention to attention itself? be aware of the awareness itself. And in doing that, the world is transcended. And in that attentive awareness, there is no fear. And miraculously, there is a joy which is completely uncaused. Why is it an uncaused joy? Because it is unreliant on any apparent objects. It is an aspect of your true nature. Because joy, happiness is always there. Actually, what you're doing when you're seeking for happiness in objects, what you're actually doing is, for the moment that you are identified with the object, you are revealing the happiness which is already within you. But because attention is fixed on the object and the object changes, the happiness appears to come and go. The happiness is always there. The object comes and goes. So this led on to a second question from my friend, which was, so then, what is the difference between someone who has recognized their true nature and someone who has not? How do they view the world? The same thing is seen for both. Only one sees a world full of objects, and the other sees only themselves. And for that one who has transcended the world, everything is provided for them effortlessly by itself. There is no fear, there is no struggle, there is no efforting. There's only living from pure, effortless being. And therefore they live life fully, free from fear, in joy. So there you go. I hope that was useful. If it resonated, please do let me know. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I quite enjoy reading the comments and interacting with people that way. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if something came up for you that maybe you'd like to talk to me personally about, you can easily book a session with me via my website, effortlessbeing.org. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again in another video.